is automating AP worth it? And really what we wanted to focus on today is thinking about how does that work for you in the AP team. Again, I know people are coming from different areas here as far as from the organization, but our goal today is really, why AP automation? Why does it happen there? We thought, based on Randall and I's experience over 10 plus years of working with DocLink, we thought we'd share with you some real world return of investment examples. Some of you that might probably nod your head and go, yeah, that makes sense, or that's something that we've experienced, or give you some tools to be able to go to other people within your organization and say, you know what, this might be worthwhile, and here's something I saw, let's take a deeper dive. And Randall's going to focus on the then how does DocLink work aspect of it. How does that really work within the actual application? How does that look to me as an AP person? It's great that all these numbers are here, but how does that impact me? What does that look like? So again, as we go through this, one of the things we wanted to get a feel from you is this first poll question, which is, what are your biggest challenges in AP presently? Those of you that are attending, is it, we store a lot of documents. We have a lot of manual areas that we put documents in. We have old-time manual inefficient approval processes, or we spend too much time on data entry, and perhaps we're missing a lot of documents. We spend a lot of time trying to duplicate, trying to track things down, or maybe it's something else. So maybe if we could take a second here, I think Lori opened up the polls, and if you could be kind enough to make one of those selections, and we'll share with the group and let you know if you're in a majority or minority.
All right, looks like everybody's voting. We appreciate that. We like to know that. In these webinars, sometimes it's hard to know that you guys can even hear us. So the poll tells us what you're thinking, as well as we know you're all there. We're not just talking to air. All right. Looks like we got one. Looks like a couple more coming in. All right, and I apologize, but I'm trying to. It looks like you guys have all responded, or most people responded. We have a couple holdouts, so we're gonna go ahead and close the poll. Great set of responses. It looks like 50%, over, half of you guys exactly, are too much time spent on data entry. I think if I close the poll, okay, it didn't let me share the poll with you, but I will let you guys know there were 50% that was too much time, 25% was manual storage, 13% was missing or lost documents, and the remaining 13% was other. So thank you guys for doing that. And Tony, I'll go ahead and pass back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lori. And it's kind of interesting, because one of the things we'll focus on today is just that. And one of the things that I always like to look at is what are other people experiencing. It's great that I have all these great slides, but here's a slide that I'd like to bring to your attention. This is from source Ardent Partners, and basically, if you look at that first column, traditional processing, this is what traditional processing, how much it costs to process a single invoice, how much time it takes to process, exception rates and whatnot. But I want to bring your attention over to once you're now processing with automation. Now you're taking a tool that's pretty dramatic savings as far as cost. That's a pretty dramatic time savings when it comes to how long will it take to process a single invoice, and as we go all the way down the line. So again, we're just trying to give you information that gives you reason to justify. And if you think about a traditional AP automation process where invoice comes in, someone has to open the mail, we got to find that purchase order, and we got to route it to the right person. Then we got to get a sticky note or something and write the coding on there. Maybe, again, I'm talking as manual approval. Maybe some of you are agreeing, others are saying we used to do it that way. maybe I got to walk it over to someone's desk for approval or email it to them, and hopefully I'll get something back, make sure it's within the budget. Once I get it back to our AP person, they got to enter it into Sage or whatever ERP system they're on, and then they got to promote it, cut a check, file it, and research. So what AP automation does is that when they transition to AP automation, all of a sudden, all of that goes away. Now we're dealing with coding, approving, and promoting, and talking about how DocLink can help with that process and expedite that and really get to those numbers that we talked about earlier. So when we look at ROI, and it's interesting, you guys said, spending too much time routing documents through, and if you start to we start to talk to some of our customers over the time, we start to look at how much time is spent routing those documents, how much time is wasted while those documents are in transit. Sometimes there's another component, how much time is spent on courier fees, those of you that have multiple locations. So we just, again, these are pretty generic numbers, so yours may vary depending on what your numbers are. But if we look at different places within an organization that workflow might touch, an AP clerk, maybe there's 3 employees there, depending on the volume. In my example, if we kind of extrapolate that, this is what that annually would be costing for that particular process, and looking at all the different departments from a manager to a vice president. Then you're talking about routing between offices. We have 3 different offices. I got a couple shipments a week, $8 a shipment. And again, everything's going to vary. And if you have a specific situation that you'd like to discuss with the micro team about, hey, this is what we do, what kind of savings would we have, I'm sure they'd be happy to kind of walk you through that. Some of you may be missing out on early pay discounts because we have to wait for all of these things. We never have that ability. With a solution like DocLink, now early pay discounts come into play. Now I can negotiate. If I can get these things passed faster, I can have a savings, if you will, a discount of $12,500. So if we added all of that up, and now we're talking about an annual savings from just having a workflow automation of almost $38,000. And again, these numbers are to give you just an idea of what a solution like this could help. More specific to your organization is going to be critical, and that's why we'd love to talk with you about that. Talking about world cases that we've talked to over the years, we had a customer that uses DocLink that had 46 different locations. And again, they were able to save about $150,000 in shipping and courier charges based on the fact of having that expedited process and whatnot. So actually, Randall, I have a question for you. What would that look like in DocLink? Let's just say we gave one of our users here the tools to now expedite the process. Could you just walk us through what that would look like for them, so they can just real quickly see how quickly a document can be processed for them?
Great. Thank you, Tony, and hello, everybody. This is Randall Glenn speaking. Tony, can you confirm that you see my screen okay?
I can, yes.
Awesome. And again, thank you all for joining. We're going to kind of step through what AP automation looks like with DocLink. And it's going to happen very quickly. I'm going to try to slow down for those that aren't paying attention. So on my desktop, I have the DocLink application. I'm going to just launch into it as an AP coordinator. I'm going to show you what the steps would be to process an invoice through this automation process. So this is the interface. The AP individual would go into their workflow, click on search. The document management system will queue up the document in this document viewer. And what you're going to notice is that, well, it's already been tagged with some elements here. And this is coming from an email account that DocLink monitors. Well, that's not really important at this point, but what is down here at the very bottom, there's a tab in this document viewer. It's called the GL distribution stamp. And so to quickly code this, You don't have to keep reinventing the wheel and fill in all the values all at once, but you can create these templates per vendor. And so right now you've seen it automatically filled in some of the constant things that are associated with this vendor. Things that are changing, per invoice are the invoice number, invoice date, etc. So we're going to type this in. 341.61, that's the invoice number. The invoice date is 3/2. And of course, you see it's auto-completing the date for us. We scroll down on the invoice itself, we can see the total amount of the invoice. We're going to pop that in here, $368.25. The batch prefix, we assign a unique identifier when we create a entry in the Sage. Here, there's a drop down. You can choose whatever you wish. I'm going to actually leave it as U1, but you'll see that the system also, with this template, is already ready to code this to a certain GL account per that vendor. And that's based off of a template. So we're going to just type in the amount that we want to go to this GL account, 368.25. Okay. We're going to tab off of that and we're going to hit stamp. Well, great. The AP coordinator has now reviewed the invoice, has coded it properly. And at this point, we need to get an approval from a user. So out of a drop-down list, they're going to choose the user that they want to approve this invoice and then click send. If there was another document in the AP coordinator's workflow, it would automatically show up here. Because it's a gray screen, that means that there's no more. So that person that the document was sent to for approval, we like to have these individuals approve via email, because if most of us live and breathe in email all day anyway, and so this just makes sense, right? So that was sent to the CFO, and you just saw that that email message popped in. I'm going to click on it, and some things that you're going to notice is that there's some approval links down below here, but also there's an attachment. From the attachment itself in email, they can open it up, they can see the invoice, they can scroll down, they can see everything, and then they can also see how the AP coordinator has coded this document. So once they review this, if they agree that it needs to be processed for payment, great. All they have to do is click on approve. At this time, DocLink will queue up and it'll tell you that, hey, that document was moved to the next process in the workflow. That approver is done. So the other thing that just happened is that document has now been moved to the accounts payable workflow into a status called approved. This is the last step before it goes into the accounting package. So normally the AP coordinator is going to open up the document, look on the left-hand side, and make sure it's approved by all the right individuals. So here we can see the CFO approved it, and they did that via email. And at this time, if we are ready to process it in the Sage, they merely click on Send to Batch Import, which is a workflow status that's set for automation to create the record inside of Sage. Well, great, now it's out of DocLink. That record has been created inside of Sage, and I'm going to crack open Sage. So within Sage, of course, the document went into invoice data entry. In my case, I'm using batches. So as I open this up, you'll see, well, hey, there's a batch here, U1, and it's got a unique batch number. We're going to click OK. And then I'm going to open up, well, there's the invoice that we just coded. So you see that it created the transaction inside of Sage. We can also look at the lines that we coded it to, the 368.25. In your world, if you need to see an invoice associated with this transaction, you got to run to the filing cabinet. In our world, all you do is click on the View Documents button, and the integration between these two applications will automatically find the associated invoice, bring it up, and display it on the screen. So now we're looking at the document that created that entry into Sage. So we're done looking inside of Sage, right? The next step, of course, is go ahead and we're going to update our registers inside of Sage, and we're going to kind of check, right? So here I'm going to go ahead, we're going to proceed with this line item. I'm going to just preview it. I don't need the register. Just FYI, if you did need these stored in our document management system, it has that capability as well. Instead of previewing it, you can print it and we can store those. So I'm just inside of Sage still. One more time, I'm updating the daily transaction register. There we go. We get to preview it and update. So now I'm at the point where I've posted that invoice and I'm ready to make a payment. I'm going to go into Sage, into the invoice payment selection, and I'm going to select that invoice that we processed for payment. Great. We're going to proceed with that. And now we're going to the check printing and electronic payment. At this point, what's going to happen is when we print this, a copy goes into DocLink. And you can also have a copy printed onto your local printer. So that's going to be check number 43. Great. You want to print the register? Yes. Again, here I'm going to just preview it just so it updates the registers. Check register. Yes. And I'm going to do the daily transaction register preview. Your ERP might be slightly different, but most of them have the same process. So now what's happened is a check's been cut against that invoice. Now, if we go back over into DocLink, here's some interesting things, right? We can go and we can look for the checks that were issued to vendors, and we can also look at invoices. And so we might want to look at both of those together, right? So we can, as we choose these document types in the document management system, over on the right-hand side, we can just put in some values to search off of. We can put in the invoice amount, I think that was 368.25, and we're going to click on search. So what you're seeing here in the search results, it found that there's two documents, an invoice and a check, and I searched based off of the check or the invoice amount. If we want to view the invoice or the payment that goes along with that invoice, we can open it up and we can see it. Well, great. So any user that has access in DocLink is going to be able to search these documents within the application, and it's just merely putting in some search criteria here on the right and then hitting the search button to find those documents. A little bit better than going to the filing cabinet. As well as searching within DocLink, we have an integration in Sage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into vendor inquiry here, and I'm going to show you some neat little things. So again, this is all wrapped around, hey, no more filing cabinets, everything's centrally located. So in this case, I'm looking inside of Sage, and I'm going to look at invoices that are all associated with this company, Airway. So there's a View Documents button, and when we click on it, based off the integration, it's going to search and it's going to find every document for that vendor, and it displays it in the search result. And from here, of course, we can open up and look at any of these invoices. Well, you might want to drill down a little bit farther. You can either cherry pick from the search results, or you can go into the invoices here. And one of the ones that we just processed today is right here, this 368. So if I double click on this inside of Sage, open. Whoops, come on, Sage, roll in here for me. Here we go. So if I want to see the individual transaction to this invoice, I can click on View Documents and do that. And again, based off the integration, it's going to find that document and display it on the screen. So that quickly shows the time saved from data entry, because we're using some template technology in the DocLink, as well as the approval process through email. That happened very quickly, right? And again, the storage of these documents, being able to store those automatically and retrieve them from multiple areas. So that is what AP automation can help you with, storing of these documents and making them quickly accessible. Now, I know that that was kind of fast. I'm going to give you a few seconds to let that sink in, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to step back through the whole process and show you how this all happens.
So, and Randall, before we move on, I wanted to state, we are showing the Sage 100 integration today, but I noticed that we have several Sage Intacct clients also on the line. So there is also integration to Sage Intacct. So when Randall made the reference of the ERP would work however it works. So with Sage Intacct, you obviously you would not have any of those update steps that you have in the Sage 100. So there is full integration with DocLink into Sage Intacct as well. It's just when Randall's showing those Sage 100 screens, those would not apply to our Sage Intacct customers. You would be seeing those Sage Intacct cloud screens instead. But the actual DocLink interface itself, I don't believe there's any difference there, right, Randall?
That's correct. Right.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Well, now that I gave you a little bit of a breather there to let that soak in, let's step through the whole process, and I'm going to show you how this all goes down. So let's start with email, right? So one of the ROI factors is for you and your suppliers. If they can deliver the documents via email, they're saving money on postage. So they're already going to start liking to do business with you, as well as, on your side, being able to automatically capture these documents and put them into the workflow. So what I'm going to do in my email here, I have a supplier email account here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new email message, and it's coming from the supplier. I'm going to send it to the accounting department's email address, and I'm going to put in a subject, and let's call it invoice for IT departments, right? And then the supplier, of course, would attach the invoice itself. So we're going to attach a file. I'm going to browse it off my desktop, and I have one already queued up here. Here we go. And now I'm going to send it. So part of the automation is that DocLink monitors predefined email addresses. And what you're going to notice is that invoice just came into this inbox for the invoices at Micro Accounting. Well, one of the things that's happening behind the scenes is that DocLink monitors this email account, and as soon as it recognizes these documents, it will queue them up and put them into DocLink, and it marked that message as read automatically, so that you know that, hey, the automation is working correctly. If it's unread, that means the automation hasn't grabbed that document and put it in the workflow. So it grabbed it from this email address, and it put it into DocLink now. Okay. So at this time, the AP coordinator or user would go into their workflow. In our case, we're going to accounts payable into a status called unprocessed. And this is the invoice that we collected via email. Right? So a couple of things. Remember, I put in a subject line of invoice for IT department. And these are the things that we collect automatically from just monitoring the email address. And the reason that we do this is DocLink has a rules-based engine, and we can create rules that say, you know what, things that are coming from this supplier at whatever email address, they go to a certain person's workflow, and that bypasses a lot of steps of routing documents around. And that's the reason that we capture these. And if there was something that's really certain words that are in the email subject line, again, we could create rules inside of DocLink to route it to certain individuals in your company. So now that this document is in this workflow, again, we're going to go code this. So when we're coding of a document, you're going to be able to create what we call our templates inside of DocLink. And that's what I've created here. All you have to do is to create a template, by the way, click create new stamp and fill in the common fields that are common from day to day for this particular vendor. You might choose in this case, I'm going to create a little bit different template for another company. And I'm going to add in some different things just to show how this works. I'm going to save this as a template. We're going to call this all climate. So here's the benefit to this, is that you're going to create this one time, and then in the future, when you get an invoice in for that vendor, all you have to do is click on the drop-down list. In this case, it's Airway Property. It fills in all that information that you would predefine in this template. So that saves a lot of data entry. Really, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields that you now don't have to type in that you normally would. In Sage, of course, you would have to, right? Or Intact. In our case, we're only going to have to put in a few values now. So I'm going to type in the invoice number 15258, the invoice date. We can see it here again, March 2nd. Automatically fills in the rest of the field, and this invoice is $99.50. I'm going to code it to the default GL account code that I set up in my template, 99.25. And then I'm going to hit stamp here. Come on. Oh, I'm out of balance by 25 cents. I'm sorry, let's make that right. 99.50 cents. So that was a rule in the system saying, hey, if you're coding something, it has to match the total amount of the invoice. So at this point, I've coded this. Now, Along the way, if somebody codes something inaccurately, it's not a big deal. You have the option to make adjustments to it. So in this case, I'm going to click on copy a new stamp, and that puts this form back into editable mode. And really quickly, I'm going to just change this, right? So I might say that this is insurance, and then hit stamp. So as part of the audit trail in our document management system, it's always going to track who's made changes, and you're going to see the changes that they've made here, right? So now you see that now the account is a little bit different than it was before. In the drop-down list, you can send to a user for approval. And again, previously we sent to CFO. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to click on send, right? So what DocLink does, again, in this case, it sends those email notifications out to the approver via email, because again, the time saving of having to log into this system and that system to do different things is, it's not really good for a constructive day. And so this is where DocLink comes in again, is that, hey, if we can make it so easy for these approvers to approve these documents, there's no reason that we can't get them processed very quickly. I know that the slide deck said that on average, after using document management, it takes 3.9 or 3.7 days to process an invoice, but you're seeing live examples. This is exactly how it would work in your environment too. All you're having to do is rely on is, hey, are the people that are getting these invoices, are they looking at their email, right? And DocLink actually has a way to remind them as well if they don't process a document in email very quickly. We'll send them a friendly reminder. So in this case, here's that invoice again. And like I showed before, that approver via email, they get to preview it. They get to see, the invoice itself. They can scroll down through here. They can see the first GL account that was applied and who did it on what date and time. But the last one is the effective one. And we always keep a change log of all these changes that are happening to documents. And you're seeing that here, right? So the last page of this file now is what would potentially go into the accounting application, right? So at this time, again, that's CFO here. They make that decision, approve or denied. I'm going to click on approve. And what happened here is when they click on that approve link, there's rules in the system that say, hey, if the user clicked approve, put it into this workflow, into this step of the workflow. Or if they click on the denied link in the email, it'll put it into a different area of the workflow for that AP coordinator to take action with. So now, again, that document came back to the accounts payable workflow, and it's in a status that's called approved for this particular one. So one of the things that's unique is with DocLink, because they're approving via email, that CFO never had to click on any other buttons to approve the document other than that link. Well, they could still log into the application and they can approve this way too, right? So there's approval notes on the left-hand side. They can click approve, they can click deny, and it'll track the user and the action or the what they're intending to do with this document, right? So both of these say it's approved. You can also put notes to these documents using this blue info button. And I'm going to just say process ASAP, right? And so this note, of course, is viewable by anybody that can log in the system, and they have rights to this particular document type. So at this time, again, we're going to send it to this batch import. And when we do this, what happens is DocLink monitors this workflow status or step, and anything that lands in it, DocLink will create that transaction inside of Sage. So we click on send, and off it goes, right? So behind the scenes, you can't really see this because it took that transactional data and it created that record in Sage. And then we're at the point, again, of logging into Sage, going into the invoice data entry, posting the invoice through, and then cutting the check. So again, here's the one that we just processed through. We're gonna hit accept. I'm gonna view it just for kicks. Remember, that was $99.50. We can see the GL coding lines that I changed it to. That's the insurance one. And again, through here, if I needed to review that document before I go ahead and post the invoice register, I can click on View Documents. And because of the integration, it will find the document associated with that transaction and show it on the screen. So that is a huge, huge time saver. Imagine trying to do this with a filing cabinet or other storage areas in your office. You're not going to be able to find documents this quickly. And that's a huge, huge time saver. And the documents never get lost because once they're in DocLink, they're there. They're there forever. The only time that they're ever purged out of the system is based on your retention policy, right? So that was it's slick. I mean, it's amazing. Once you get used to using this interface, you can process documents so fast. Earlier, now I don't do this every day, day in and day out. I can process a document in probably about 2 minutes, right? Which is huge. So that is the real ROI, having a document management system, the storage of the documents and being able to recall it. Wait, I said recall. Well, I showed you through Sage and I showed you through this interface inside of DocLink how to pull those documents back. Well, DocLink also offers a mobility pack, and the mobility pack is designed so that if you're on your smartphone, or if you don't have a smartphone, or if you're in a hotel room somewhere, you can log in through a portal and you can search and approve these documents through this portal as well. And so what I'm going to do here is, here's the portal that we have, and it's called the web client. So from here, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to log in as the CFO. Taking a little longer than expected. Come on. There we go. So this is the web interface. And what's neat about this is that, again, because things are stored electronically in a central repository, again, no one has to go to filing cabinets or whatnot. So if somebody's looking to find a document, all they have to do is click on the advanced search here. And down below here, they can choose the document type that they're looking for. Maybe it's a check issued to a vendor, or maybe an invoice here. Once they choose the document type that they want to search, then down below here is where they put in some search criteria. So I'm going to just look for things that have airway in it, in the vendor name. And then at the very top, there's a search button. Oops. Here's my search button. Oops. There it is. And when they click on search, it'll search and find those documents and present them in this grid here. Now, I only search based off of the vendor name, right? So these are all the invoices for that vendor name. At this time, if they want to review any of these documents, hey, here's one that we just processed. Remember, 368.25. I can double click on that and I can open this up and I can see that invoice, right? So that, again, is a huge savings in time, being able to give these users an interface that they can quickly search and find these documents. Okay? So I think, personally, every organization should have DocLink document management system because of the way it's designed. Now, I'm only showing you a smidgen of what DocLink can do. It's a full-rounded document management system with all sorts of modules that can do amazing things. And I ask that next time you see one of our marketing blurbs come out, join in and get educated on some of the other modules that DocLink has. You'll be amazed what this application can do. And with that, Tony, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thanks, Randall. And can you confirm, can you see my screen again?
We can.
Okay. So, as you can see, first of all, Randall's very passionate about DocLink, and anything that you guys might have come up with, feel free to reach out to your micro accounting rep to be able to get more information. I'm just going to wrap up with just a couple of more examples. You know, we talked about you know, the time savings and cost savings, but also think about strategic initiatives, being able to grow without a staff. I worked with some people just earlier this week talking about, you know, we have an opportunity to either hire someone new or try to find technology that can help us. And really that's what we're trying to help them with, is to be able to have those type of things to have those type of things help this particular organization. So if we look at time spent versus employees' average salaries, again, I'm going to try to go through these a little bit quicker just to save you guys some time. But again, trying to look at the clerk, to be able to look at the department managers, looking at the same numbers that we looked at, but now we're just talking about access and sharing documents, not the workflow that we had before. That looks like an annual savings of this based on the same criteria that we had before. We have a customer that is in the petroleum and fluid area, and they've been using DocLink for 10 years and store over 2 million documents a year. So again, a real life situation. Storing paper, that could be super expensive. Being able to have stuff at Iron Mountain off-site. Some people use old schools for gymnasiums. I mean, I've seen quite a few different options out there. But again, thinking about printing and storing out of what does that look like? If we look at paper supplies, again, just some typical examples, 24 boxes of paper a year at this particular cost, copy machine, filing cabinets, all of these things. We try to take all that in consideration for you and look at what we're saving. And we had a customer that looked at that paper storage, being able to not have to spend storage and retrieval charges to companies like Iron Mountain. They were able to save about $85,000. Now you're starting to get the idea, right? Where all of a sudden you start looking at, you know what, this is something that we really should be looking at, not running away from. How could we become more efficient? Again, taking those savings that we talked about before, the same components, and we add all of those pieces up, the access data, accessing and sharing of documents, the average storing, the first one that we talked about, the manual workflow. All of a sudden, we're looking at an annual savings of about $90,000. So when I said earlier about growing without staff, we just looked at what is a typical AP clerk. Now yours is going to vary. This was an average as of 11/22. We looked at a range and we just kind of took it down the middle. But now you start to see that, gosh, you know what? Maybe I should look at DocLink if these issues are happening within our organization. Maybe it makes sense to be able to make our team much more efficient. And when we look at some of those key differences, DocLink is just, as Randall said, more than just the AP automation. We can help in a lot of different areas that once you have a solution like DocLink in place, it can just expand within your organization. One of the capture methods that we didn't talk about today that we would be happy to is OCR, optical character recognition. As you saw Randall typing in some of those, the information off an invoice. Imagine if you're getting a lot of invoices that come in. How nice would it be just to have a system be able to read those values off of those documents and automatically be inputted and start your three-way match. DocLink is very configurable. As you saw Randall kind of going through the system, the workflows are going to be set up for your specific situation with your rules. Randall's very diligent with working with you to be able to make sure that it matches exactly how you and your organization works and not trying to figure out how your organization can work within a workflow. The search and retrieval, as he showed you, you're able to see it within DocLink on your phone, on a web. You can be in Mexico, sipping Mai Tais and be able to find stuff as easily. The smart farm configurator, these are great things that we would love to talk to you about. And finally, just having different options on how DocLink can be deployed, perpetual, subscription, or cloud. These are all talking points that you could have with your micro accounting customer manager. So before I get off, I would like for you guys to help me with one more poll. If you wouldn't mind answering the next poll question, I would greatly appreciate it. And how can we help? Well, do you want me to send you guys more ROI stories, which I'd be happy to? You want to set up a call to see how DocLink could work for you. are you interested in a DocLink demo? And or you know what, this is great information. Thanks a lot, but I'm just going to continue researching my options. So if you wouldn't mind taking a look at those, giving us an answer. Lori, let us know when that's concluded.
I will. It looks like people are answering now. While people are finishing answering, I'll remind everyone, we've had a couple questions come in, so we'll answer those in a second. But if you have any additional questions, please type those in the panel and we will go from there. Okay,
Fantastic.
So our responses are, we have 50% that would like a DocLink demo, 33% I'm going to continue researching, and 17% let's set up a call to see if DocLink will work for me. So good responses there. One comment I will make for those that want to continue researching our options. Randall is a great, he's obviously been in the document management industry for many years, and he's a great person to bounce some of that stuff off of. So we are also happy to help you in researching those options. Anyone who's worked with us for any length of time knows that we never want to just sell software. We want to make sure that it's the right fit for you, that it is going to work well, and we'll be the first ones to say if it doesn't, or if there's something better that maybe you should look at. So happy to have calls with you guys as well if you're open to that. Okay, so Tony, do you have anything else before we take questions?
No, I based on that those answers to the poll, I just wanted to put this slide up, and this is a great way for if you trying to reach out to your account manager, feel free to, here's the phone numbers, here's the email address, and you know, operators are standing on by.
Yep, and the account manager will be following up with you in the next week to then to do those next steps. For those of you that did note that you wanted to see a demo, we don't know who answered the poll. We just have a percentage that comes through. And so for those that want to set up the additional calls or the demos, the account managers will be reaching out to you within the next 4 or 5 days. So maybe tomorrow, maybe early next week to get those next steps scheduled. But if you want something before that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.